to the Malmesbury Youth Justice Centre, which will close at the end of the year. Apparently, the announcement was done in a pretty messy way, with some of the 240 staff receiving an email saying that the centre was going to close, and that email was then retracted. Then the union was called. Then the announcement was made. Then another email was sent out. But suffice to say, the end game is that Malmesbury is going to close at the end of this year. Staff will be given financial incentives to continue working there until its closure, which we were talking about earlier this morning. And the young people in custody will be transferred to facilities at Parkville and, of course, the new Cherry Creek Youth Justice Precinct. The Liberals' Brad Batten is Victorian Shadow Minister for Youth Justice and Crime Prevention and joins you now. Good morning. What do you make of the closure of Malmesbury? It can't come as a surprise given the brand new Cherry Creek Centre.
Yeah, good morning, Fiona. It doesn't come as a surprise what the government's doing, and I think our view is they just have no plan on what they're going to be doing with youth justice in Victoria. The Cherry Creek prison was ill thought of. It was a knee-jerk reaction from a government that panicked towards an election, and the cost is nearly $500 million for a new prison that is going to replicate that in Malmesbury, rather than keeping Malmesbury, which they'd already invested tens of millions of dollars upgrading the safety to make sure that it was a better facility to use for young people in Victoria.
But Malmesbury on the whole is an ageing facility. And this new one at Cherry Creek is purpose-built, modern. As you say, millions and millions of dollars spent on it. Why is that not good enough?
So, Fiona, I've walked through both of these facilities, Malmesbury and down at Cherry Creek, and let me assure you, the difference between Malmesbury and Cherry Creek is not $500 million worth, is not going to have a bigger impact on community safety, and is not going to have young people coming out better. They could have spent a fifth of that on Malmesbury to upgrade it, kept it out in regional Victoria, kept those jobs, and ensured that young people had great and better opportunities. Instead, they wasted $500 million on infrastructure to effectively replicate Malmesbury. And I know you say it's ageing. The reality is they've spent tens of millions of dollars upgrading that facility with new wings that are identical to that are at Cherry Creek. It's a disgrace the government has wasted $500 million they could have invested in young people at a younger age to stop them going into the prison system.
You're right, they did open more beds at Malmesbury in, I think it was 2020, but the point is that building, that infrastructure is ageing. They've upgraded it. It's a renovation, though it's not a complete rebuild. What has happened at Cherry Creek is a fully new centre that will include VCE and VET courses, educational and vocational courses. It'll be a specialised facility. They'll have psychosocial programs and case management there, and it will mean that the inmates will be kept in a modern facility, and they'll be able to target their rehabilitation in a way they can't at Malmesbury.
My argument with that, Fiona, is for 1/5 of the price we've spent on Cherry Creek, we could have upgraded Malmesbury to the equivalent of that to have all of those facilities and all of those options. The government has wasted an extra $400 million, if you put it into figures like that, where we turn around and say, my view is if we want to actually have criminal justice reform, then we need to start investing at a younger age before they enter the justice system, not wasting it on programs and facilities for after they've entered the justice system. We can do that. At the moment, it doesn't matter where you go in Victoria. We've got home invasions. We've had stabbings in Sunshine. We've got violence in Dandenong. We've got home invasions in Clyde North and Brighton, mostly caused and created by young people. Why aren't we investing in those young people now, rather than waiting they get into the system to give them the VCE options? We can do it before, and it's a better investment.
In terms of that, though, the state government says that one of the reasons they're closing the Malmesbury Youth Justice Centre is due to youth crime dropping, a reduction in young people in custody, according to Youth Justice Commission Andrea Davidson.
Yeah, I can say that is absolutely not true. We've got 90,000+ people waiting to go through the court system. So the only reason we haven't got people in the prison systems at the moment is they're waiting to go through trial because the government won't invest in our court system. At the same time as they're doing this, they've cut $10 million in prevention crime programs across our state. This government has sent our state broke, and they are doing anything they can to recoup that money because of poor decisions. Everybody, the Jesuit Services, the Liberal Party, the Aboriginal Legal Services, it doesn't matter who you speak to, nobody comes out and says Cherry Creek was a good idea. Nobody comes out and says this was a positive investment except the Labor government. And they did that as a knee-jerk reaction for votes in an election. And now Victorians have to pay for it. But we're spending that money on something that will not improve community safety, and no one's going to end up better off, not even the young people in there, because we could have had 400 million in programs rather than 400 million in concrete fences.
But the government says there has been a reduction in young people in custody, that they're keeping young people out of the system.
But as that's what I said, though, they're in the court system at the moment. There's 90,000 court cases waiting to go through. So you can't say that they're not in the detention system because of the good work of the government. They're not in there because they haven't gone through the court system and been sentenced. The Andrews Labor government need to come clean when they're talking about this. They can't just use one statistic and not all of them put together. The whole justice system is not working, and that is simply because Victoria is broke. We've got $171 billion in debt, and we can't afford to get people through the justice system and where they should be if they should be held accountable.
All right,
and now Daniel Andrews says that's a positive. That's a bit of a joke.
What's the solution then?
The solution would be, as we've suggested in the past, we need to make sure we can clear out our court system, review the system that makes sure that we have any sentencing in the future. We've always said we want to reform the system. If it's more judges to get people through faster, but our biggest investment needs to be in prevention. We need to start working on how do we stop people who are going into the justice system, entering the justice system, and we can. It's done all around the world. Texas, over in Florida, Cheshire in England, they're all doing programs where they invest programs around young people at an early age, and they've seen huge reductions in youth crime, not people in detention. That happens naturally after, but actual youth crime. Our youth crime statistics here are out of control. The youngest are the highest offenders between the age of 14 and 18, and we're seeing them go into homes with knives and machetes. We need to fix that rather than put them in jail or build jails for it after.
Brad Batten, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Brad Batten is Shadow Minister for Youth Justice and Crime Prevention. And we did invite the State Minister onto the program this morning, but they have said that he is not available today.